Welcome back to Following Noah on a Stormlight podcast. This week is episode 90. And if you're watching this on YouTube, which about half of you are, you will notice we have a new overlay behind us to view. We have commissioned new art from Joe Stiller. He did our original art piece that we did a couple years ago, almost exactly 2 years ago now, actually. And he has done another one for us. We don't have a name for this one yet. So if you guys want to suggest a name for this art piece, it's supposed to be Thalen City, about to be under siege from a couple chapters ago. So we've been enjoying seeing what he did with our recommendations and been looking forward to working with him again. And we finally got to do so. So Paul, how are you?
I am great. We have finally come to the end of Oathbringer, and I'm excited to talk about it. Excited to dive in.
Elliot?
After getting to the end of this book, I am exhausted, but a good exhausted. Like, man, we made it.
Wonderful to hear. 2 words. I guess we can just go right into that. 2 words for you, Paul.
My 2 words are respite. I think that's how you say it. Respite or respite. One of those. And norms.
Respite and norms. Elliot?
Mine are confrontation and whew.
How do you spell that?
Oh, it's definitely PHEW. Probably a few W's on there.
Okay. Well, let's use these 4 words and talk about Oathbringer. That's the last time I'm going to say that. We don't have to do 2 more words for next week, and we're not going to be talking about Oathbringer after that. So, Paul, who's on our mug?
Our mug this week. So first, I'm actually going to show the other side of the mug, because there's a fun little joke on there, and with the name, you can't see all of it. So what we have here is a little Stormtrooper mug, and it says the expressions of a Stormtrooper. We have angry, happy, sad, and confused. Excited.
Confused. You're right.
Oh, it is confused. Oh, on this side we have different ones. We have. Oh, I didn't even realize. So our person of the week of the mug this week, I can't speak, is Spun Lines. Thank you so much for the support.
Thank you.
Spun Lines. Yeah. I believe the support level is Surgeon. I could be wrong this time.
You're correct.
I knew I was right. Actually. So we have another surgeon on our hands, and we really appreciate it. I didn't actually know until just now. There are more emotions: sleepy, cheerful, frustrated, and excited. So all the Stormtrooper emotions right there. So we appreciate your support.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, let's start with Elliot. Do you want to talk about your 2 words, what they mean?
I kind of already talked about, whew, I'm exhausted, but it's kind of that feeling you get when you cross the finish line of a race. You're tired, you're worn out, but you're so glad that you did it. And that's kind of where I'm at with this book. The end of this book, the pacing was just so insane through the last 150 pages, maybe even 200 pages here. So I'm a little mentally worn out, but in a good way, in all the good ways. And then I picked confrontation because it's actually referenced in one of the chapters we're about to talk about, and we have a couple different confrontations. We have Adolin and Shallan kind of have a little, you might call it a confrontation, where they resolve some things, and then we have a big confrontation between Odium and Taravangian, which got all the gears spinning in my head. That was an interesting scene. So yeah, confrontation.
Sounds good. Paul?
So my first word is respite. I'm just gonna say that how it is. I don't know if that's correct or not, but um, respite. It refers to a short period of rest or relief. And I feel like we are entering at the end of this book. I feel like we're kind of entering into a kind of a moment of peace and quiet because there's been a lot of craziness where Dalinar confronted Odium and kind of drove him away, at least for a little bit. And so we're gonna kind of hopefully recuperate from all of this. So that was my main reason for picking that word. The other is norms. We've seen ever since the Way of Kings, we've known certain rules of society on Roshar, like men don't read or write. They don't know how. It's not. They're not supposed to learn how, or like it's just part of the culture there, as far as I know.
Yep.
And here we see Dalinar learn to read and write. And that was just like a really, you know, going against the grain and not caring about it move. And so definitely breaking some norms.
At the beginning of Oathbringer, I think it's in part 1, we get epigraphs from Oathbringer, but there's no author associated to it. And I asked you guys who you thought the author of Oathbringer was going to be. From the faces you both are giving me, you guys don't remember this. But I asked you guys who you thought the author of Oathbringer would be. And Eliot, you said, it sounds like it could be either Yasna or Dalinar. That was your two guesses. And it says it referred to being between realms, and that's what you were referencing, was like, okay, that sounds like Yasna being in Shadesmar is what you said. So you were close with one of you were correct with one of your predictions, but Yasna did not write it. What did you guys think of that reveal at the end that Dalinar was the author?
I think Yasna was kind of an accomplice, right? Or isn't Yasna the one who helps to teach Dalinar? Or maybe
Navani.
Okay. I was wrong. That's okay.
I thought that reveal was pretty cool. I thought that was unexpected, but expected in the same way. It was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And it's so funny. I don't remember that the beginning of this book. Like, there's so many things. As I was going back through my notes, even to prepare for our upcoming end of the book review, there's so many things I came across as like, so much has happened through this book that I don't even remember some of this stuff from the beginning. But no, I liked that touch, and the closeout of this book was fantastic. Like ending it with Dalinar, putting pen to paper and starting the writing of Oathbringer was super cool.
I agree. We'll talk about it more in a little bit, but I agree. Jumping into 121. This isn't the first scene that we see Moash. It's actually the second one, but I just want to talk about them both. Moash is in Kholinar, and he's doing manual labor in Kholinar under the supervision of the Fused. He's being treated basically as a slave, but he has a little bit more freedom than that. They're not super oppressive for him, but they're giving him, manual labor work. And they ask him, you killed a king. Would you do the same to a god? And then the scene closes, and then it opens back up with a reveal that could anyone guess this approaching this? This is the craziest twist to the end of a book like ever. Did either of you see this coming at all?
No, and it happens so fast. It's just like, okay, he's going to kill someone. Oh, he does kill someone. And thus passed Yezrian, king of heralds. Like, what? Like, hold on. Back up a second. Read that again.
I do want to read it. Go ahead, Paul, if you want to say something while I flip to it.
I have several things to say. For one, it's crazy to me to see like one of our heralds die, and in my head it's like it's just Moash. Like it's just some dude. Like I don't know how you pull this off, but I guess he did. I also have to say, like, Moash is by far the worst. Like, he like, who even is Odium? I don't even care who that is. Is he a villain? I don't know. I just hate Moash. Like, I don't even like if we're gonna play my favorite game of who's the actual villain here, it's definitely not Odium compared to Moash because he's the worst, but for legal purposes, that was a joke. Odium is the worst, but Moash is killing all my favorite people, or upcoming favorite people. Elokar was growing, and Yezrian's like the stuff of legends is all, but we didn't actually know him.
We'll talk about the mechanics of exactly how, and I'm sure you guys have questions on what exactly is happening here. But I want to read this scene and then read another scene and draw some parallels for you guys. Moash's target was a particular man who sat giggling in the darkness near the back of the gardens, a madman with eye collar lost to the night. "Have you seen me?" the man asked as Moash knelt. "No," Moash said, then rammed the strange golden knife into the man's stomach. The man took it with a quiet grunt, smiled a silly smile, then closed his eyes. "Were you really one of them?" Moash asked, "Herald of the Almighty?" Was. The man started to tremble violently, his eyes opening wide. "No. What is this death? What is this death? It's taking me." The man screamed, then looked down at the knife in Moash's hands. "What is that?" The man trembled for a moment more, then jerked once, going motionless. When Moash pulled the yellow knife free, it trailed dark smoke and left a blackened wound. The large sapphire at the pommel took on a subdued glow. These broken slaves were the only other witnesses to this moment. The final death of Yezrian, Yezeriza Elin, King of Heralds, a figure known in myth and lore as the greatest human who had ever lived. Go ahead.
I never actually thought that I would be so upset at the death of someone who I haven't actually met yet. Like, we haven't heard a peep, not one peep from Yezrian, really. We see a lot of illusions, and we know he's in the prelude, all that stuff. And Trevor's going to be like, actually, he's been in our story the whole time, or something like that.
I want to read another quote from The Way of Kings.
Oh, no.
Szeth left the feasting chamber behind. Just outside, he passed the door into the beggar's feast. It was an Alethi tradition, a room where some of the poorest men and women in the city were given a feast complimenting that of the king and his guests. A man with a long gray and black beard slumped in the doorway, smiling foolishly. Though whether from wine or weak mind, Szeth could not tell. "Have you seen me?" the man asked with a slurred speech. He laughed, then began to speak in gibberish, reaching for a wineskin. So it was the drink after all.
Interesting.
And one more quote. This is a Dalinar flashback chapter in Oathbringer. Ehu was an odd one, even for a crazy beggar. With black, matted hair and a scraggly beard, his skin was dark for an Alethi. His clothing were mere scraps. He smelled worse than the compost. Somehow, he always had a bottle with him. Ehu giggled at Dalinar. "Have you seen me?" Unfortunately, Dalinar settled on the ground. "I've smelled you too. What are you drinking today? It had better not be water this time." Ehu wagged a stout dark bottle. "Don't know what this is, little child. Tastes good, though." "I like you," Ehu said to Dalinar. "I like the pain in your eyes. Friendly pain. Companionable pain." "Thanks." "Which one got to you, little child? The Black Fisher? The spawning mother? The faceless? Moalak is close. I can hear his wheezing, his scratching, his scraping at times, like a rat breaking through walls. I have no idea what you're talking about." "Madness," Ehu said. "I used to think that it wasn't my fault. But you know, we can't escape what we did. We let them in. We attracted them. We befriended them. Took them out to dance and courted them. It is our fault. You open yourself to it, and you pay the price. They ripped my brain out and made it dance. And I watched.
So that's who Ahu was.
Yeah.
Do you remember when we read
Oh
that,
my
Paul?
gosh.
You asked the podcast, I can't tell if this guy is super important or just a crazy guy. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do. Oh, this one hurt. This one hurts me. Okay. I would like for everyone to just walk a couple feet in my shoes. So, here I am, a little naive reader of Brandon Sanderson's story here. And we're confronted in a flashback chapter with this, like, we don't really know how him and Dalinar know each other, right? Like, they just kind of go and hang out because they like drinking a lot, I guess. And he just kind of rambles. Like, what am I supposed to do? Be like, oh, that's Yazeraza Elin, King of Heralds, like
Right.
the Windrunner Herald, and then and he's dead. He's just gone. But and like what hurts is my first question was like, oh, like the heralds die like all the time, and they're okay, you know, like they just come back. But I'm guessing this golden knife, which seems to be Odium's color scheme, is some kind of special one that, like, he's gone forever, and we're not going to see him again, and that makes me a little sad.
I'm with you, Paul. This one hurts more than it seems like it should. But I think it's, of all the heralds, I think Yezrian was the one I was looking forward to meeting the most. He was the one, Windrunner Herald. He gets talked about a whole bunch. He's supposed to be, king of the heralds. I was like, okay, we know he's going to be slightly crazy, but I at least want to, who was this guy? What's he like? And now he's gone in the blink of an eye.
Do you guys remember during an Dalinar vision, he sees Yezrian at the final battle, and he thinks to himself, that guy kind of looks familiar.
Oh, yeah.
It's because he went drinking with him multiple times.
I'm also with you, Paul, on what you said earlier about Moash. For some reason, and I think I know why, this knocks Moash up a notch on my most hated scale. And I think it's just because his previous kind of stuff that he's done at least had some like thought behind it. He at least can understand what Moash is thinking. But this one is just like the fused hand him a knife and say, that one, go kill that one. Moash is like, oh, okay. Knife him. Like, that takes a level of like callousness and just like not caring that just, yeah, does not sit well with me.
It's even worse than that, actually, because I actually don't know if it's worse if he thinks it's just a random beggar, but he knows it's Yezrian. He's been told because he asks him, "Are you actually Yezrian?" as he's killing him. So what are you doing? Like, why are you doing this?
That's why he's really up there on my list, because his motivation for things is just fully out of like spite or vengeance, as far as I know. We saw that like showcased in Words of Radiance and before, right? That his initial like him being upset with Elokar made sense, right? Like I could give him a benefit of the doubt of at least like his family and him, like they were like mistreated, whatever. He has at least a reason to be upset. Whether he should have acted on that, I don't think he should have in the way he did, but he did, and we're like, oh, Moash has a bad, rotten attitude, but maybe he'll be done with that. But now he's fully embraced this hired knife in the dark thing, and it's like Zeth with no remorse at all. is almost what I'm thinking of it. Like Zeth without the redeeming, the like string of hope that like, oh, he's being controlled, like whatever that we kind of had for Zeth. This is just evil and
it brings up some interesting questions about the logistics of all this, actually. Because my first question on this is, why are the Fused making Moash do their dirty work? They hand him this very special knife, which I had some ideas about, and I bet you did too, Paul. But why can the Fused not just do this? They've got this special Herald perma-kill knife. Why don't they just do it? Why does it have to be Moash?
that is a good point I never thought of.
They clearly know who he is, where he is. They have the weapon to kill him, which may or may not be a Dawn Shard. And then they say, oh, we can't do this, but Moash, you do it. And even there's even a bit in it that says like they're like hanging back. They're like hiding, watching, like, oh, is he gonna do it? Is it gonna work? Is it gonna happen? What why?
My only thought with it was like, you know, if a like Fused walked into the room, that's very different from like a man walking into the room, like a normal human man, I guess.
So just like stealth, you're thinking basically?
Potentially, or like to not like raise an alarm.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know why.
Yezrin might run if he sees a Fuse coming for him with a knife, as opposed to Moash walking towards him.
If some guy walks up to you, you probably aren't afraid that he has some special Dawn Shard that he's gonna get stabbed with and then eternally die, like actually die. But I actually did not think you were going the Dawn Shard route with that prediction, and I was gonna make a joke and be like, "You're right, it's a Dawn Shard," and then you said it, and I was like, "Wait, hold on."
We've been joking about how everything we come across is like, ooh, Dawn Shard, ooh, maybe Dawn Shard, maybe
Exactly.
possibly.
Right now, it's the perfect scapegoat that everything we come across that's like, ooh, that's important, and it's some trinket or weapon or whatever. We're like,
Yep.
oh my goodness, one of our Dawn Shards. Okay, we'll learn that this is a Dawn Shard later. But
all that being said, I actually legit 100% for real. I think this might be a Dawn Shard. Some of the other things that you had some crazy theories about, I don't know, maybe. But Shard seems to sometimes refer to either powerful objects or weapons that we've seen before. This seems to be that, or a different version of that, which seems to have the ability to kill a herald in a way that they're not normally able to be killed. So again, kind of what is this thing? How does it work? And is it maybe perhaps a Dawn Shard?
I have one other comment, and I don't want to go off too far because it's getting into rabbit hole territory. But it says that like afterwards, there's a sapphire on the hilt, like sapphire gemstone on the hilt that kind of glistens afterward. And I feel like we've seen this draw of these gemstones that can hold an unmade or other things like that. We don't know, do we, that heralds have spreads? We know that Nail probably has one because he's a fifth ideal, and we're kind of just using logic to assume he has one. But I was wondering, like, is there some way that this knife, like, captures the spread that Yezrin has, or something along those lines? That's where my thoughts went. But I'm curious if you have a prediction on that, Elliot.
I was thinking similar. I was thinking, is it capturing like a spren that's tied to Yezrin, or is it somehow like flipping the table and actually capturing him somehow? Have we gone from like, we have gemstones we know that can capture spren, even like the most powerful ones out there. Is this like a different kind of stone or something that can somehow like capture a human soul? Maybe. But I really don't know. But I was thinking along similar lines with you, Paul.
That would be quite a twist, which I would not be prepared for.
I'm really tempted to throw this off into theory territory because I've got a big theory for this, but I'm gonna do it. Maybe we can do it for like 30 seconds. Okay.
Okay.
Shard blades. Let's talk about shard blades for a second. Okay. Shard blades pass through a living object and leave it intact and sever the soul. Correct?
Correct.
Fused take their soul and basically hijack a listener or a singer's body. Correct?
Right.
What if a shard blade was designed to sever the soul, leaving the body intact, so you could reattach the innocent singer, the innocent listener, back to its original body and kill the fused in the body? What if that was the original design for shard blades?
Interesting.
I see what you mean now. That's pretty smart.
Okay. Fabrials. Gemstones that try to mimic surge binding abilities. Okay? With me?
Yep.
What if this sword is a fabrial that absorbs the soul like a shard blade? And Yezreen is basically trapped in this pommel now because the gemstone is done and becomes glowing after Moash kills him. Now, the writing is fairly final here. It says the final death, like as if Yezreen's not getting out of that pommel. You know, if he was captured in it, like the Unmade, like Nergal is captured in the King's Drop or whatever it's called. That seems to imply that could be reversed at some point. Like if he broke the gem, then maybe you could let him out. This doesn't seem like that, but this is my theory that shard blades were designed to leave the host body undamaged, and you could reattach the soul to somehow, I don't know, to a body. And this is a mimic of that via a fabrial, because the gemstones are scientifically crafted to mimic stuff like that. What are you guys' thoughts? I've wanted to just lay a full theory out there for so long, and I finally got to do it. So that's what I did.
You said, what are you guys' thoughts? And I had a moment of like, wait, I have to tell you what I think about this. Like I'm supposed to formulate a rebuttal. Like
I'm tracking with your logic 100%. That makes perfect sense to me. I think the one part of that I feel like that may hinge on is everything we've seen so far. Well, the Shardblade comparison is interesting, but when I think of Fabrials, when I think of Fabrial, I immediately think of Spren, capturing a Spren. So if we've now shifted from Fabrials and Gemstones collect Spren to now this, maybe it's a Fabrial, maybe it's not, just collected a human soul, like what are the implications of that?
Right.
Does that mean that human souls are Spren? Like what are human souls in this universe? Like that's the kind of line of thinking I start to go down with your logic there. But I'm totally tracking with your thoughts.
yeah, I see what you mean. I'm actually the reason I like your thoughts. I don't think Yezreen was like captured himself in a gemstone.
Right.
And honestly, my reasoning for that is kind of meta. It's like I don't think in the end of our story that it will result in like, I don't know, Odium or whoever being like captured or imprisoned. I think it's going to go towards like death and like an ending of something. And I think that Yezrin here like died. I think their goal is to kill the heralds, not to capture them. Because if so, then if there's no way to kill them, then I'm gonna just assume there's no way to like kill Odium or something like that. Maybe if that's the case, maybe Honor's not actually dead. But I'm actually just gonna go from a story standpoint and think that it would make more sense if they were killing and not capturing. But I also think that our blade isn't I'm under the impression that it is like, I'm thinking it's some form of like more divine power from Odium, and not some crafted thing. But it could be either. I don't really have grounds for that. That's just where my assumption was, given the description of it being gold, and Odium is all gold and orange and stuff. So
Good stuff.
yeah. So we talked about Moash.
Yes.
We've made it past Moash.
We got, 10 more people to talk about.
Yeah.
I want to talk about Dalinar and Navani for a real quick here, because we talked about Moalak here, or Nergal, sorry, being trapped in the King's Drop. And she teaches him how to read and write. And we'll come back to this, but he begins to write the in-world Oathbringer, and he names it after his sword that freed Bridge 4, and it did a couple other things too. But Adolin is having a conversation with Dalinar in 122, and he gives him the reveal that he killed Sadeas. Okay? And I want to talk about this in context of Dalinar, because what does Dalinar not say in this conversation? Adolin says, "Hey, I just killed Sadeas." Dalinar has a truth to tell Adolin. What has Dalinar not told Adolin yet?
That's a good point. We haven't gone down the road of Adolin and Renarin understanding what's happened in the past. Dalinar has learned that he killed his wife Evie,
Right.
but Adolin doesn't know that yet, does he?
So when's we finished the book, and we don't have this conversation yet. Hey boys, need to sit you down. I accidentally killed Mom.
Whoops.
Yeah.
Whoops. How is that conversation gonna go?
Yeah, not well.
I guess it is different from Adolin telling Dalinar that he killed Sadeas, but in my head I was like, it'll be like that. But I don't think that's the same. Not at all.
So, when we finished Roads for Radiance, you guys had the prediction that Adolin was not going to take the news well. He was going to go down this dark path of everybody is a Radiant. I just killed Sadeas. I'm going to spiral. Everybody else, and he was going to have a problem with this. We didn't really see that. He's been bearing it fairly well. He's taken his spot. He understands that. He even tries to take a second seat to Kaladin and say, Shallan, you should go marry Kaladin because he's a wind runner. He can fly. And Shallan, they figure all that out, which we'll talk about here in a second. But Adolin seems to be taking all this news fairly well. He doesn't seem to be becoming a Knights Radiant in the traditional sense. Maybe that's going to happen with Maya, or something like that. But how does this conversation of, hey, I accidentally killed Mom, how do you think that's going to affect things?
I'm not sure, really. I did think that Adolin was going to have a bigger battle than he has so far with his decision to kill Sadeas, and with everyone else kind of powering up around him and him not. But we even talked about it maybe a couple episodes ago. Adolin has kind of now become our barometer for normal. Like, everyone else around him is kind of crazy, dealing with demons. Are they possessed? Are they not? What's going on? And then you kind of have Adolin, who's staying pretty even keel throughout all of this, which is pretty impressive. So I kind of almost want to say that if Dalinar does break the news, that the two of them would, be hurt and have to deal with that, but maybe take it in stride fairly well. Like, that's almost what I feel like those characters would be able to take. But then on the flip side, maybe not. Maybe that is the pebble that sinks the boat. Maybe that is the moment where that throws Adolin off the rails. I don't know.
It would be difficult to write, but okay, so coming from where we are right now, we have dealt with some very large scale issues and problems that our characters are facing. And I imagine, like I said, I think we will have a little break here from that magnitude going into our next story. There may be some form of like relational social problem here. It's just kind of hard for me to imagine that right now because I'm like, no, Odium is about to attack and like Zeth is gonna, like, I don't know, all this stuff. Like my brain is still climax fight, like, minded. That I can't imagine that being a big problem. Like Dalinar mentions it and they're like, hold on, like we have to fight a god right quick. We'll unpack this in a minute, So, I'm sure it'll come up. But in my head right now, I can't imagine it being that big of a setback, given the magnitude of other things, which is kind of sad, honestly. Realistically.
I also think back to that one of those flashback scenes where Dalinar's having like a complete breakdown. I don't remember it too clearly, but maybe he like screams and yells at Adolin and Renarin and they leave, but then Renarin comes back and like just holds his father, like that tender moment.
Yeah.
I could potentially see, another scene like that where Dalinar breaks loose, tells them the truth. They know what he was like back in those times. They know that he was going through some really tough stuff. They might be able to say, like, wow, that's big news, but I remember what you were like, and let me help you, let me support you. We could get another one of those scenes, maybe.
Shallan chooses Adolin. Our love triangle is done. They get married. Paul, is this what you were hoping for? We no longer have the wishy-washy, oh, I'm Vale, I'm attracted to Kaladin. Oh, I'm Shallan, I'm attracted to Adolin. It's done.
Yes, I am happy about it. I'm hoping it doesn't cause further conflicts because just because technically they get married doesn't mean that they wouldn't have similar problems, I guess. But
sure.
And for the purpose of our story, I think it'll end those, and I'm hoping they will live happily ever after. And she'll get her little veiled paws away from our precious Kaladin. So I'm kidding. That's mean. um, I'm totally happy with this. I'm glad that they got somewhere. It was kind of tense and awkward to read. When she's talking with Adolin, and then he like flies by. I don't remember exactly how it happened, but Vale kind of comes out for a second and like admires Kaladin again, and it's just like awkward to see and stuff. But it's over.
I'm also pretty happy with the result there. I was Team Adolin from the beginning, so I'm, woo, good job, Adolin. But in all seriousness, I think Adolin is better for Shallan than Kaladin is. I think Adolin helps soothe the whole personality disorder thing. Adolin helps ground Shallan in who she is, whereas Kaladin exacerbates it. Kaladin pulls out those other personalities of Shallan and kind of causes some of that conflict in Shallan. So where he's maybe the more exciting option, he's also he feeds the problem. He feeds the lies that Shallan has to deal with internally. So I hope Adolin will be good for Shallan.
I hope so too. I
think they're definitely the right pair.
I think Kaladin deserves better, so Adolin can have her.
Ooh, ouch!
I'm not the only one who said it. That's me, I think.
I was surprised by how quickly they got married, though. Like,
Right.
maybe this is an Alethi thing, and this is not out of the norm at all. But it was like, oh, okay, we've made a decision, and a week later they're married. Like, whoa, okay. I thought that was going to be, I thought that was going to be a big deal. I thought in one of these books it was going to spend like months leading up to like the wedding of Shalon Devar, and that was going to be a big deal with like all this pomp and circumstance, and there's going to be drama, and she's going to have second thoughts like right at the end. Oh no, it happens in like a paragraph. It's like, and they were going to get married, and a week later they were done.
Right.
Oh, wow, okay, all right.
Shalana is really weird to talk to right after the, like, just from another person's perspective. From the reader's perspective, you understand that Vale's answering that question and Radiant's answering that question and Shalana's answering that question. But if you just look at it from, Yasna's perspective, Yasna walks up to her and says, "How are you doing?" And then Shalana says, "Oh, I'm tired and I need a drink." Like, she says it like in the same breath, basically, when there's two different personas talking. And it'd be really weird to talk to Shalon, to be honest.
I would. It would be a roller coaster of emotions for sure.
So, go ahead.
I was just going to continue the Shalon train a little bit here and mention her brothers that arrive. That's definitely some resolution we've been waiting for a while. We knew they were on the way. Murray's had promised to bring them to her, and like that was like a whole book ago at this point, like the beginning of this book maybe. So we did revisit that. So that was a loose end, somewhat closed.
That is true. We completely dropped the Ghost Blood story arc and picked it up in the last paragraph of the last page, basically.
But they do come bearing a message that might revive our Ghost Blood story a little bit, or at least it keeps it going. And that is the task Shalon has been given from Murray's and the Ghost Bloods is to investigate Ja Anat. And I believe the task specifically was get Ja Anat to leave Odium and to come work for the Ghost Bloods, which seems like a pretty colossal ask to me.
You think so? I thought that,
That's
just
normal.
ask.
Yeah.
Just if you're polite, be like, hey, like, are you looking for a new job? Has, like, what's the benefits package with ODM? Like, could I talk you into joining my, my business here, the Ghost Bloods? And
I know a crime boss just down the street. I mean, he's hiring.
Yeah. I think I would put in a good word for you. I think we could make it work out,
Would you guys classify as Marae's of holding her brothers hostage? Would you say that would be an accurate representation of what was happening there, or what are you guys' impressions of what was happening?
He was 100% using them as leverage.
Right.
But I don't remember like how much of a grip he had on the brothers. Was he just like, if you don't do it, you say like what we have, we will kill your brothers? Or I don't know if he like had them kidnapped. I don't remember.
I think he's more subtle than that. I think he's keeping his options open, right? He's making sure that he can play this any direction he needs to. So I don't think I might be wrong, but I don't recall him specifically saying, do this or I'll kill your brothers. But that's the hidden threat.
Right.
I have your brothers. I'm bringing them to you. By the way, here's something you need to do for me. Like he's very, clever, and that he can always play it off as, oh no, I'm helping you this whole time. Or he can immediately on a dime turn it into, oh really, you don't want to work with me anymore? Well, yeah, I've got your brothers over here. Do you want to rethink that? Like he's very, very slippery.
I had forgotten she had brothers. and then they were there, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, okay." Like you're the guy with the crabs.
Yes,
Like,
you're the guy with the
you're
crab
picking
legs
the
in your
lebs
back
off the crabs,
pocket.
yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, oh my goodness. Like, okay, why are you here? I don't know. But
What a thing to be known for. Hey, I know you. You're the guy that tortures crabs, right? Like, yeah, I remember.
yeah, you're that kid who, yeah.
Anything else for Shalon? Happy marriage. Live happily ever after. Never hear from Shalon or Adolin again. All right. Kaladin and Bridge 4. Teft had his moment, and he has another one in this chapter 121. He approaches Kaladin approaches Teft, and Teft confides in Kaladin and says, "My yearning for the moss is still there. I thought I would overcome it with my words that I've just spoken. I will protect those I hate, even if the one I hate most is myself." He thought that would solve his problem. It didn't. And Lopin, in the next chapter, actually says, yeah, Stormlight heals everything except for that stump on the top of your shoulders, meaning your head. Like, it doesn't cure your mental issues, it just cures your physical issues. So the ideals is something to live by. It doesn't change them fundamentally as a person. What were you guys' impressions of this? And what do you guys think of this?
I like this sentiment. I like this mentality a lot because I think it teaches me a lot. Teft is kind of looking at this as, oh, if I achieve this greatness, it'll fix who I am. And Kaladin explains to him, which parallels the Dalinar story really nicely, that no, the struggle, the pain, the difficulty, that's part of who you are. You can't just fix that. If you take it away, you're no longer you. That struggle that Teft has with the moss is Teft. And Teft just has to figure out how to use that in a positive way, or to learn from it, to then like leverage off of it, of that pain is who I am. I'm going to go on and do great things anyway. Like, that's the Dalinar struggle as well, is accepting that I have this pain, accepting that I've done terrible things and doing good anyway. So I thought that was great. And then the bit in this scene that is fantastic as well, and I'm going to revisit this at the end of this episode, Kaladin then also steps in with a, Teft, this is who you are, but you don't have to do it alone. And that was awesome. Where Kaladin says, you've been there for me, and I'm going to be there for you. Like, that is powerful right there.
We lift the bridge together, Teft, and
Yes.
We carry it. Lopin swears his second ideal in chapter 121.
In a very Lopin-esque way.
Yes, he's explaining the rules of the Knights Radiant to this injured Thalen guy who has lost his arm. And I think Lopin directly went and sought out this guy because he lost an arm and he can relate to that guy. He's showing him how to tie his shoes with one hand because Lopin's good at that. And then he says, yeah, I've got a bunch of jokes that I can't use anymore, but you might be able to use now because, one arm. Mm-hmm. And then I think there's an unspoken thing of like, you don't tell each other what the words are, which is why Lopin says life before death, strength before weakness, journey before pancakes is his substitute word there. Like, you got to figure it out for yourself, but I don't know. Lopin's a character. Lopin's certainly a character. And then he says, I will protect those who cannot protect themselves. And then it stops. And then there's a bunch of like lightning and thunders as these words are accepted. And then Lopin's like, really? That's what you accept? Not earlier when I was trying to swear it during the battle? Like, so.
Okay, and I totally imply my imagination goes places with this. I imagine just like Lopin, just like standing on the, like at top of a cliff. There's no one around, just like screaming these words over and over at the sky, like, come on, give me the powers, come on. And then like here he is. Lopin doesn't even realize that he has to, believe it. He has to do it. And so here he is in this moment, actually like caring for someone else, like actually serving them. And then he just kind of says the words offhand, and the Stormfather's like, "Ha! Finally, ding!" And Lopin's like, "Ah, dang it!" Like that's such a Lopin way to go about that.
And then
It was some poetic justice, some. I think my favorite thing that Brandon Sanderson actually does is how all the characters interact with each other and just exist like so thoroughly and consistently throughout our various scenarios. And I think this is very just consistent. Just like this sounds about right for Lopin. Like he's just trying. He's honestly kind of bragging about like, Knight's Radiant, by the way, and stuff. And then he says the second ideal, and it's really funny.
And then Kaladin, in the meantime, is getting news of Drey and Scar. And then Lopin turns around right after he said the second ideal. Is like, "Hey, did you see? I just swore." And the second ideal. Khan's like, "Yep, congratulations, you're second in command. Bye," and then flies off. This is the beginning of 122. Kaladin flies to Alethkar and finds Drey and Scar, who have reunited with that Ardent guy that they left the Spanreed with in Kholinar. All of them have escaped. They Spanreed to Urithiru, or to Thaylen City at that point, and say, "Hey, come pick us up. We're on the outskirts of Alethkar. We've escaped." And they have Gavinor. They have Elokar's son, Gavinor. And Drey reveals to the reader and reveals to Kaladin that he's already sworn the second ideal, that we protect those who cannot protect themselves. What were you guys' thoughts of this like little side mission happening?
It was pretty cool. So my thought with this was, is Gavinor gonna have like significance? Because you said there's like kind of a time skip, right? It's like a year, and he's like 3 years old or something, isn't he? Like
Yep. 3 or 4,
child, like a very young child. So I can't imagine there being much significance with the character of Gavinor. I was like, if there was potentially a time skip and we come back and he's like 14, 15 even, we could see like a big like a very strong character like development, like learning about his father and learning about like all the things and stuff like that, and being a major player. But I don't know, I was a little confused why Gavin. I guess saying this, I guess it's just so Drey and Scar have like a very honorable thing to do and have growth, and there's the second ideal and stuff like that, and they're saving a life,
I thought this moment was pretty cool and unexpected. I thought that the whole point of that scene was going to be Elokar didn't make it, Aesudan didn't make it, Gavinor didn't make it. But now we have Elokar went out in the, very sacrificial, I guess, way that he did. But now Gavinor is alive to like live on that legacy. And so now Elokar's sacrifice has a little more meaning now, in that Gavinor was actually saved by what Elokar did, which I think that kind of that symbolism or plot line, storyline is actually really cool.
Yeah. Side note, I think this would be the implications of this whole scene would make a great video game idea. The prologue is it's a co-op Assassin's Creed game, okay? Player 1 is Drey, player 2 is Scar, and the intro is you're assaulting the Kholinar Palace. And Kaladin and Shallan and Adolin zip off into Shadesmar without you, and that's where it drops you in the game. And you've got Gavinor right in front of you, and you've got to escape Alethkar and escape Kholinar. that's the game, and you do this whole like super secret mission across Alethkar, and you're, I don't know, random idea.
Protecting the child and
Yep.
stuff together. Yeah,
I'd play it.
Yeah.
I really want. I doubt we'll get this. Maybe we will. I don't know. I would love to have a scene in the future, 10 years from now, like you're saying, Paul, a 14 or 15-year-old Gavinor, maybe a little younger. I would love to have Kaladin sit down and tell Gavinor the story of his father.
Yeah.
And like, you know, let me tell you, son, about what your father did. And like have it that moment where you know how Kaladin originally felt about Light Eyes and how Elokar embodied some of that, and how that was such a symbol for Kaladin getting through his third ideal, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then him like getting to kind of pass that on to Gavinor by telling him like that story from start to finish, culminating in like your father died swearing the oaths of the Radiant to save you. Like, oh, that would be a cool scene.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I was thinking that as well. And that's where my mind went. And then, like, realistically, I think it's more of a, like, highlight for Drahe and Scar. Like,
Yeah.
kind of in reality. But I also don't know where the line is between are Bridgemen Squires, or are they just all Knights Radiant now on their own? Do they have Windspread? I guess I should just expect that everyone is becoming a Windrunner too now, but
So
I guess I was a little surprised.
for the Windrunners, you swear the first ideal, and then you're a squire to one of your second or third ideal, or more ideals of Windrunners, and then once you swear your second ideal, that's when you get your spren. That's what's been happening for most people except for Kaladin. Kaladin got Syl before he even swore the first one. So